that big test project coming up, and we thought it would be something good just to kind of reiterate and make sure that we all kind of have a good basis on it. Okay, so getting started, one of the main things you want to do is make sure you have a good reason for your testing. None of us wants to take a test or a pre-assessment or anything that doesn't do anything. One as a teacher for our lesson plans, and one as a student that doesn't have any prospect for what we're doing. So, like questions you can ask yourself: will this quiz monitor the student's progress, or will it help adjust my lesson plan? Will ongoing quizzes motivate the students, or is this quiz going to decrease their want to keep going with the lessons, something like that? And then next, you want to make sure your test is, or you're maintaining consistency with your test. So if your class and what you're testing is mostly recall, you want to make sure that your test is mostly recall. Or if your class is mostly getting deep and diving deep into a subject and analyzing it, you want to make sure that your test measures the same exact thing. So the next one is helping students prepare. You don't just want to throw something on your students and then not be prepared. First of all, because it looks bad on you, and second of all, that doesn't help our students in any way. So you want to make sure that when you're giving the test, you are accurate with how you're telling them what it's going to be like, what it's going to be over. You don't just want to throw it out in one day. And then next is you want to use consistent language. So if you're talking about assessments, you want to make sure that you use the word assessment in your class, not test or something like that. And then next is design the test with a variety of questions. And we hit on this a lot the past few classes. You want to make sure that you aren't just doing level 1 questions, or you're not just doing all recall. You want to make sure you're really making them dig deep into their repertoire. Is that right?
Repertoire. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that way you're really challenging them. You want to make sure they really master the content. And if they haven't, then you have an accurate representation of what you need to build upon.
Okay, so multiple choice questions, they can be difficult to write because you do have to think of so many answer options that kind of relate to the stem of the question. But they are easier to grade because you can just go through, check, 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 or now they have Scantrons. I know we use those in high school a lot. Multiple choice is mostly used for memorization, so like Katie said, just like recalling information. And when beginning to plan multiple choice questions, it's good to have a colleague review it. It's important to give clear, well-written questions so the students do not have to read the choices to figure out what is being asked. It's not fun to be confused while taking the test. And do not give misleading answers or distractors. Yes. Okay, multiple choice questions helps us identify where the students may need further work and can help us assess the test ourselves. So after the test, we need to ask ourselves, was the test too hard for the students? Did they not do that well? Did we word the questions correctly? And if all the scores were very high, was it because the test was too easy for the students, or did they just grasp the information well?
Okay, so the next thing is essay. Says the ability to test is, or it gives the students the ability to put their thoughts in a question, like fully talk about what. So if the question's about plants, like, are you wanting them to tell about the process, or are you just wanting them to just say what they know about plants? So you need to make it like very like you need to make sure that the students know what you're wanting from them. Are you wanting it to just be a plain answer, or you want them to go in details about their answer? Essay questions may be easy to write, but they are difficult to grade and more time consuming. When you do plan to create an essay test, be specific. Use words to hint the students to different kinds of thinkings needing to answer the question. So as identify something, compare something, critique something. And like I said before, be aware of time, because you don't want to give students a essay test 10 minutes before the class ends. Some students take longer than to take tests. Some students can just fly through it. When grading a test, like I said, make sure you give them a list of appropriate responses. So what are you looking for in the answer? Also a scoring guide or rubric, like Dr. Woods was talking about. Make sure you say how much points or how much credit they're going to give for each part of the response. it goes for true, false, multiple choice, and then essay. And then to help your students prepare, like I said, tell your students exactly what you're looking for on the test. Provide test questions or examples of how you can answer a question fully.
Okay, so assessing your test. When testing students, make sure to test for application more than recall. So what that's saying is pretty much don't ask the what, but ask the, or test for the how to. So like, one thing I thought about was scientific process, I think that's what it is. Or, yeah, we'll go with scientific process. Where you like gotta give steps to like an experiment or something. Don't ask them like what it is, but like ask to like give an example of it or describe how to use it. Ask about how to, that's pretty much the same what I just said. Ask about how to implement a certain concept rather than how to work the concept. When issuing a test, make sure the criteria is what you taught in the classroom. While you may have taught the subject in your class, your questions on the test may not relate to how you taught it in class. So that's going back to what one day Dr. Will said about writing good questions, how you took that one question off the test. So that's just making sure that you word your questions correctly and that the students understand what you're asking and what you want. When emphasizing the important things in class while teaching a lesson, make sure that the test has the same material on it. A lot of times, well mostly in my high school anyway, a lot of teachers like, they would hit certain points of a lesson, but they would leave out some things maybe because they couldn't get to it or just didn't do it. And they would still add it in on the test and you wouldn't know what they was talking about on that question. So you get it wrong and then it affects your grade. Make sure the questions with heavy content weigh more in points than questions with less content. So like the essay question shouldn't like be 20 points and then true or false is a 20-point question too. So just, does that make sense? When testing, make sure you use the right type of question. So I think we went over this in the PowerPoint too. So pretty much like I said with this one, if you got an essay question, it should, like, if it involves more detail, it shouldn't be a true or false question. If that makes sense, I'll put that. In order to get the most out of them, as far as seeing the content they learn, multiple choice and short answer is usually the best one to go with. That's what the article says. This makes the student think more about answering a question, whereas true or false is just more recall. So like when I talk about up here, we want more application than recall, because recall is just them, I guess like remembering something like an order or something, and application is knowing how to use something.
Okay. So now we'll be doing a new activity. If you guys want to get your, I think you can do it on your phone. It's kind of like Kahoot, but it's more advanced. It's not as elementary. Yeah. So if you just want to go to classtime.com, and it should take you to a site that looks like this. And as a teacher, if you want to make your account,
Will you get Dr. Woods for me?
but I'm gonna try and go through it and like show you guys.
Do you
how
want me
to
to
do it, and
record
then
this
also
part?
take the quiz.
I don't mind,
So
I just want to
students
ask.
put in the code here. These are just example quizzes, so you can make any kind of quiz that you want. You have multiple types of questions you can put in, true or false, essay questions. I think we have most of every question in this. Don't feel like you really have to answer it completely, because we might not have the exact amount of time for it. But I'm gonna go ahead and start this session. Here, like you can choose, I guess I can read it right here. So you can, if your students, you want your students to have multiple attempts, if you want to shuffle the questions, you could do it in groups, you can put a timer on it. I'm just gonna keep going. So if you guys wanna put in that code. And it tells you how many students are in, right there when you're looking. And if you guys want to go ahead, and I think it just takes you right to answering it, right? Like it gives you a question. Okay, you guys can go ahead and go into it if you want to. But it's more individualized, so if you want, you could actually use this more as a like formal assessment. if each of your students obviously have the technology to do this. But as a teacher, this is what you see. You can see, like what one your students are on, what ones they've gotten right, what ones they've gotten wrong. And also, if you have a question that you put on there that you misspelled or your students are really struggling with, you can turn one off and hide it so you guys wouldn't see question 5. So yeah. It's something, I thought it was really cool. The questions, you can be a lot more descriptive with it. This is obviously something you probably wouldn't use for lower elementary, whatever. But you can also change the point average on it too, so it's not as easy as Kahoot. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. You guys can, if you don't really have to answer them all if you really don't want to. But
I think you need to hide question 4.
yeah. I don't remember what that one was. But we were thinking, we wanted to do like a quiz or a Kahoot, but we're like, everybody does Kahoots. So we thought this would be something really fun to do. You can also add like videos to your questions too. Picture